Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Cadet Captain Elise Ferreria. I'm from Renton Composite Squadron, and we'll be talking today about how to organize a color guard competition team and what the different aspects are of color guard. So I've been in Civil Air Patrol and doing color guard and competition for 4 years now. So over the years, I've accumulated a lot of information. So I'm excited to share that with you. So I'll pass it over to Colonel Gorham for organizing a color guard team.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. As introduced, I'm Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Bradley Gorham. I'll be talking with Cadet Captain Ferreria about organizing a color guard team. Our class is going to be split up in two parts. The first one is going to be at the squadron level, kind of what it takes to be able to start up a color guard team, if that's something you're interested in. And then about halfway through, we'll have a chance to answer questions, and then it'll go back to Captain Ferreria, and she's going to talk about cadet competition specifically and how you can prepare your team at your squadron to be able to prepare for cadet competition. So I'm going to start off talking about how you can start up a color guard team at your squadron. And so if you have any questions throughout our day, please go ahead and message them through our chat box, or you could raise your hand on the side with the participants list. To do that, just click participants at the bottom. There should be an option to raise hand. So that's how we'll be having you ask questions. And so without anything else, we're going to go ahead and start in with our class. So a little bit more about me. I've been in Civil Air Patrol for about 4 years. My first exposure to color guard itself was back when I was in Airman First Class, back in December of 2016. Feels like a long time ago. But I went to a color guard training in Tennessee Wing, actually, is where I first joined Civil Air Patrol, and I really enjoyed that event. And I wanted to do color guard ever since. I started up a color guard team at my home squadron, the Tri-Cities Composite Squadron here in Washington. We've done color guard for a few events, such as Rees Across America, and really we're looking to make a dedicated team, and I've been involved with that a lot as well. So I've had quite a bit of experience with color guard. I've staffed a lot of activities at the wing, region, and national levels, actually. So I have a good bit of experience, and it's something that I really enjoy doing in Civil Air Patrol. So I'm definitely glad to be able to talk with you about that. And so now we're going to go into first talking about what is color guard. So within Civil Air Patrol, we do a lot that has to do with the American flag, and you might have heard of two different things. There's color guard and honor guard. Today we're going to be talking about color guard. Honor guard is a little bit separate of a thing, and so we're not going to be talking about that as much today. But what is color guard? So it's just a ceremonious presentation of the U.S. flag. You can see a picture here, and I'll show you a video here in a minute about what an actual color guard presentation would look like. But it's centered around presenting the U.S. flag. You have usually a flag bearer for carrying the American flag, along with a secondary flag. Here in this picture, it is the Civil Air Patrol organizational flag. And you also have two what's called guardsmen. They're carrying the rifles here in this picture. You have one in the front and one in the back. So your color guard consists of 4 people generally. And there's 3 different types of ceremonies that you can do with a color guard. You can post indoors, where you take the flags like what they're holding, and you post them in a flag stand for like a wing conference or some other ceremony or something like that. You can do an outdoor presentation where you use the same exact flags and you stand outdoors, and instead of putting them in like a flag stand, you just carry them and then you salute while you're playing the national anthem, something like that. It's an outdoor ceremony where you're carrying the flags the whole time. And then you also have an outdoor posting of colors. And this is a little bit different. You don't carry the flags and you don't have rifles, but this is where you take a 3x5 American flag and you raise it up on a flagpole. So those are 3 different ceremonies that you generally do with the color guard. And so again, honor guard is a little bit different. They have different things that they do, and the movements that honor guard does is a little bit different. So we're going to be talking about that as much, but this is color guard, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So next, I have a video of Cadet Captain Ferreria's team, and this is what their color guard presentation was able to look like when they did it for cadet competition. So I'll just go ahead and show this video.
Port. Hearts. Ready, step. Present. Parse. Order. Parse. Ready for the set. Ready, step.
Again, as Cadet Captain Ferreria mentioned, that is a little bit more of the honor guard style. Color guard is a little bit different, but that just gives you an example of what it looks like to actually be able to post the colors. Again, that was an example of an indoor colors posting where they posted flags in a flag stand. They used the state flag instead of the Civil Air Patrol organizational flag. So that's just to give you a better understanding of what a color guard looks like. So if I can move on here. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to talk about why you should make a color guard team at your squadron. I know a lot of you are coming in here and this is something that you're really excited about doing. And that's definitely a really important thing. And so I'm going to give a little bit of a sales pitch about why you should make a color guard team at your squadron. So if you want to get other cadets at your squadron interested, these are some things you can think of. So the first thing is you want to represent your squadron at cadet competition. If you're one of the squadrons like mine, who's a little bit smaller and doesn't get a lot of exposure at other wing activities, cadet competition is a great way to be able to get your squadron out there, to be able to show off to the wing that, wow, this squadron is really good. They have a group of cadets and they showed up at cadet competition. I believe last year at cadet competition, we only had like 2 or 3 teams actually represented out of the 15 or so squadrons in Washington wing. And we're looking to try and get more squadrons represented at cadet competition. So that's definitely something that's really important, and it'll help make your squadron stand out if you're able to compete against other squadrons and move up to the region and national levels. The next thing that's really good about a color guard team is you can get community exposure. So you can see here in this picture, we have a cap color guard. They're doing the colors presentation at a baseball game. I know people who have done it for hockey games, for high school sports games, for football games, all sorts of different things, for like Wreaths Across America ceremonies, just getting Civil Air Patrol and your squadron out there representing to the public. That's a really great way if you're looking to recruit new members. If you go to a public event and people say, wow, I see all of these youth, they are looking really good in uniform and their color guard presentation was really great. I want to join them. I want to learn more about this program. So it's a really great way to put your squadron out there to the public. So that way they're able to see what Civil Air Patrol is and at least get a taste so you can talk to them more about what it means to be in Civil Air Patrol. The next thing with color guard is you honor the flag and what it represents. So our flag represents the United States, our democracy and freedom that we're able to provide as our great country. And many soldiers who have gone before have fought and died to be able to protect our flag and what it represents. And every time you do color guard, the focus is not on the presentation or the cadets or the fancy drill that you're doing. The focus is on the flag and honoring the US flag and presenting it ceremoniously. And so every time you do a color guard, you are honoring the flag and what it represents and all who have gone before to be able to protect it. Next, with your color guard team, you build a strong and close-knit team. So if for those of you who have gone to encampment before, you'll know that when you're done after encampment, it's not just a week of training to build you as a cadet. You also leave with a really good bonding experience with your flight members. You both shared to overcome a challenge, right? And so when you do go through a challenging experience with a group of your peers, you build that stronger sense of community, you build that close-knit team, you work together, you practice together, you go to color guard events together, you go to competition together, and you really build yourselves together as a team. So if that's something that you're looking for within your squadron, you want to build your friendships maybe a little bit deeper, color guard is a great way to do that because you spend time together as a team, you practice, you do events together and things like that. So that's definitely a really good benefit of having a color guard team. Finally, it pushes yourself to a higher standard of excellence. So if you find in Civil Air Patrol that you want to do more, if you really enjoy that drill and ceremonies aspect and looking sharp in uniform, making those colors presentations, and you want to push yourself farther, Color Guard is a really good way to do that. When you present the flag as a team, you are doing so, and the goal here is perfection. You want to try and do it with as much excellence as possible. And if you want to push yourself and your team wants to push yourself and really go to that higher level and hold yourselves to that higher standard, Color Guard is a really great way to be able to do that. So there's a lot of reasons why you should make a Color Guard team within your squadron. We're going to talk about some like expenses and other things that it takes, and it takes a lot of work to be able to do, but there's a lot of really good benefit that you get out of making a Color Guard team at your squadron. So it's definitely something that I would recommend. If you have the cadets and resources available to be able to do it, definitely something that you should set up.
Colonel?
Yes, ma'am.
We have one of our members on the chat says he can't, his screen is black and he doesn't know if there's something that we can help him with.
Yes, ma'am. I did see that comment. That was during the video. So
okay.
if you're still unable to see what I'm presenting, we can help you out with that. But thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so now that we've talked about why you should start a team, we'll talk about what it takes to actually be able to get your team going. So the first thing you need is 4 willing cadets, right? You need to be able to have those cadets be able to have a commitment to be able to make your Color Guard team actually happen. The minimum you required for a Color Guard is 3 for 2 guards and 1 to be able to hold the flag. Generally, most all Color Guards are going to be 4 cadets. So you're going to need to be able to have your cadet support at the very least. If you want to do cadet competition, it's only going to be 4 for your Color Guard team, but you're going to need 6 cadets to be able to do that. Again, Captain Ferreria is going to talk more about competition, but you are going to need 6 cadets if you're going to have a cadet competition team. Again, there's no requirement. They can all be new airmen. They can all be cadet officers. You can have a mix of anything in between. So as long as you have 4 willing cadets, that's all you need to be able to have a Color Guard. Next thing you need is you have to have senior member support. So in order to have any CAP activity, you need to have at least 2 senior members supervising training at the activity. So if you have all of your cadets, you need senior members to be able to supervise and make sure that you're doing everything safely, things like that. So make sure that you have your senior members be able to support you. I'll talk about how you can be able to get that going here in a little bit. And you also need some materials to actually be able to have your Color Guard be functional. So I'll show the next slide. I'll show a picture of all of these things. But for your guards, you're going to need 2 parade rifles. There's a lot of different styles you can get. You're going to need 4 or 2 pistol belts for each of your guards. They'll each need 1. If you're going to be doing outdoor Color Guard posting, you're going to need 4 pistol belts in total, since the people who would be carrying a flag, they're going to need a pistol belt as well. You're going to need a U.S. flag and a Civil Air Patrol organization flag or a state flag. Doesn't really matter which one you get. You have to have a U.S. flag plus 1 other ones. And you're going to need flag stands to actually be able to post them. You're going to need 4 pairs of white gloves, 2 flag harnesses. You saw a picture of those, but that's so you can carry them while doing outdoor posting. You're going to, if you want to do outdoor flag posting on a flagpole, you're going to need a 3x5 flag and a flagpole for that, obviously. Again, not all Color Guard teams will be doing outdoor posting, but that is one of the events of cadet competition. So if you want to do that, that's something that you'll need as well. And white shoulder cords are optional. I'll talk about those here in a second. So here's a picture of all of our Color Guard materials. You see rifles there on the left. There's a lot of different styles you can get. Shown in the picture is the base style you can get from Vanguard for about $60 each. So they are a little bit expensive. Check with your squadrons first to see what all materials you have available at your squadron. Because some, like mine, I didn't know that we actually had a lot of these materials already. So definitely check beforehand. But some of these items can get a little expensive. If you really want to go above and beyond and get rifles like you saw in the video, you can get some really nice weighted mahogany and silver rifles or whatever, and those look absolutely fantastic. But again, those are going to cost a lot more. These are just pictures of all the different things. Your shoulder cords, Honor Guard wears silver, Color Guard wears white. Make sure to make that distinction there. These are optional. They're not required to wear when you're doing your Color Guard presentation, but I would highly recommend getting white shoulder cords for everyone on your team because it makes your team stand out. You give it to all of the members who are on your active Color Guard team, and It brings a sense of unity within your team. You're all wearing the same shoulder cord. It all looks really nice. And when you go to your squadron meetings, you can identify and say, hey, these are the 4 cadets on our color guard team. They're wearing our white shoulder cord. They look really nice. They're standing out. And it like recognizes you for taking that above and beyond step to actually participate in color guard. So it's not required, but I would definitely recommend getting white shoulder cords for every member on your team. So these are a little bit of the materials. Afterwards, I'll have my lesson or all of my slides, and this has all of the links to purchase these items from Vanguard. You can look those up. Some places have them a little bit cheaper. Make sure you get the right specifications. So I'll be sending out this afterwards. This has the links to all of these materials. All right, so those are some materials. So how do you actually be able to start a cadet competition team within your squadron? You know what you need. You want to move forward with it. First thing, you want to ask about cadet interest and getting your team and get a commitment from the people involved. So the first thing, before you get anything else, you want to make sure that you have an interest to be able to do it. This is not something that you can just do on your own. You have to have those 4 cadets who are willing and committed to be able to practice together and to be able to are dedicated to having a competition team going forward. So that's the first really important step. The next thing you want to do is identify the key expenses required. So again, check at your squadron to see what all materials you have available. You might already have rifles. You might already have flag stands for like a guidon or something. Really, and then figure out what all else do you need to be able to make your competition team successful. So in addition to that, you want to show a benefit to be able to be gained. So with anything, there's like a cost benefit analysis that you have to do beforehand. And in order to figure out what the cost is, you have to figure out what benefit do we have that's actually worth buying all this stuff. Are we just going to get all of our expenses and then never end up using it and they just sit at the squadron building collecting dust? Or is there actually a benefit that you're going to be able to get from making a color guard team? And so I gave a few that I thought of at the beginning. Again, every squadron, you might have some different things that would be to your advantage to be able to have a color guard team. Next, you want to talk to your senior members. I recommend your deputy commander for cadets, or if your squadron's big enough that you have an activities officer, or if you have a lot of expenses, you might want to talk to your finance officer to be able to get this off the ground. The key here with this discussion with senior members is if you have everything planned out in advance, where you figure out, okay, who are the cadets involved? What do I need to be able to get this off the ground? We're thinking about meeting on Monday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. And here's how we're going to register for a cadet competition. You have all of like those details planned out in advance. Your senior members are going to be a lot more willing to be able to say yes and to make this go forward. As opposed to if you bring them an idea and say, hey, can you help with planning these things? It's going to be a lot more work on their end. And so they'll be less likely to be able to help you get success within your program. So make sure you have everything planned out ahead of time. So that way, when you do talk to your senior members, that all they have to do is say yes, and maybe have 1 or 2 be able to supervise at your color guard practices. And that'll be a lot more successful with getting your color guard team off the ground. Next thing, after you've gotten approval from your senior members to be able to hold your color guard, then you're good to purchase needed items, whether that uses your squadron funding. You can talk to wing if it's something that you can do at the wing level. You might need to do a little bit of individual. Again, just whatever you need, make sure that you know what you need out of what you already have at your squadron. Purchase the items that you have to be able to get everything ready. Next, I put this in here, check with your local and COVID restrictions. At the moment, the state of Washington is restricted so that there is no non-essential CAP activities that we're allowed to do, I believe, through the end of the month. And so this is not something that you're able to do right now. The point of this class is to be able to get you everything you need to know to be successful. So that way, when COVID restrictions are opened up, you have everything ready. You've talked to your senior members, you've gotten your cadet interest, you've gotten all of the items that you need, and then you're ready. So that way, when COVID restrictions are lifted, you're ready to start being able to practice together as a team. Once you've done those 5 steps, you're good to set up your first meeting and start going together as a color guard. So again, your 6 steps, you want to ask about your cadet interest, make sure you get a commitment from the people involved, do a cost benefit. So figure out what you have to buy, what time commitments required, and show a benefit to be able to do all that stuff. Talk to your senior members, get approval, get any items that you need to make your color guard successful, check to see that you're allowed to meet together with your COVID restrictions, and then set up your first meeting, and you're good to go. So this is what it takes to be able to start a team at your squadron. All right, so once you've set up your team, you've gotten your cadet interest, you've gotten your approval, you're good to go, and you show up to your first meeting, you want to make sure that time is productive, right? You don't want to get there and then you don't know what you're doing, and you don't really have a plan going forward. So you need to develop a training plan for how your color guard team is able to operate. And the first step with this is you want to select your color guard commander. So this is generally the most experienced cadet with color guard, or if your squadron is a little bit newer and you've never had anyone do color guard before, this is someone who is the highest rank generally and who has the best performance with drill and ceremonies. Your color guard commander is going to be the one who carries the American flag, and they're going to be the one calling commands for your color guard team as a whole. So they're going to be the ones running the training. Again, it's someone you want with a little bit more experience level. So once you've selected them, they're going to be helping to come up with your team's training plan. The first thing you want to do is actually read the manual. So CAP pamphlet 60-33 is the drill and ceremonies manual for Civil Air Patrol. If you've not looked at that, definitely a really good read. You might be surprised in what it actually has to say in there. Chapter 7 talks entirely about color guard. So that is the regulation that you're going to be following as a color guard team. Make sure you know the ins and outs of the regulation. You don't want to go and do cadet competition and then you find out that your team was actually not doing what it said to do in the regulation. So that's a really first step, and it'll give you a lot of really good ideas for how to make your color guard successful. So make sure that you actually read what the manual has to say. And then finally, your color guard commander is going to be developing a training plan from the very first time you show up at color guard competition, nobody's ever done it before, to your final colors presentation where you're putting all of those individual steps together and making your team look nice. So this training plan is going to look different for every single team. If you have a bunch of new airmen at your squadron, it might take a little bit more time getting that basic drill foundations down. You have a lot of cadet NCOs and officers who know what they're doing and are experienced. Your timeline might be a little bit different. But I'm going to talk about now a 6-week training plan that you can use for your squadron. Again, it might be different depending on what your squadron needs. From the very first time that you show up to the presentation that you're able to do, putting all of those individual steps together. So this is a training plan that I'll be talking about. Take notes, and this might be different for your squadrons as needed. So this is a 6-week plan, and it bases all training off of 1 hour of color guard per week. So the first thing you want to do, week 1, you're going to be doing your drill foundations. So in order to do any other advanced drill movements like you saw in our color guard video, you need to be proficient with all of the basic drill movements. So that includes stationary movements such as left and right face, saluting. You need to be proficient with marching drill, which is like forward march, flanks, columns, to the rear, all that sort of thing. You need to be really good and have those down solid. And with that, you need to, as a team with your other cadets, you need to work on keeping your alignment, your military bearing, and staying on step. This is a really big one because those 3 things are what makes an okay looking team to a really good one. Is you need to make sure you have your alignment down, keeping your military bearing. You can't look down to make sure you're on step with the person in front of you. You have to look straight forward and make sure that your bearing's good. So those are some things that you need to get down before you do any other advanced movements with your color guard. Week 2, you want to talk about your advanced drill movements. So there's 3 new movements that you'll need to be able to master as a color guard team. There's right about march, your peels, and the 3-step about face. The purpose of this class isn't to show you how to do each of those things. Those are things that you're going to have to look up on your own. But those are new movements that you're going to be able to need within your color guard. Again, the purpose of this class is to show you what it takes to be able to put together a color guard team. So a lot of this you're going to have to do research for on your own. And with week 2 as well, you're going to want to work on maintaining your alignment and staying on step. It sounds really easy in theory, but when you get on to the drill pad, you're going to need to make sure that gets down perfectly. The goal of this is to do it as perfectly as possible, and you're doing it uniform with the members of your team. Week 3, you're going to talk about individual specialization. So this is where you pick up the materials that you learned, that you ordered, and you have everything ready to go. So you're going to split up into 2 different groups. Your guards are your people who are carrying the rifles. They need to practice together to practice how to actually carry the rifles, how to use those things like that. And then your flags are going to split off, and they're going to practice together how to practice carrying a flag, how to mount them into the flag harnesses, practice together, and you're working on individually how to get all of the color guard specific movements down. Next, in week 4, you're going to work on post and retrieve. So here you're still going to split up and into your respective groups. Your rifles are going to continue to practice together. Really important with your rifles, you want to make sure that they're on the exact same timing together with things. And then your flag bearers are going to continue to specialize together. You're going to standardize the process for posting and retrieving. And so this is really important that that post and retrieve, as you saw in the video, is going to be what's really at the heart of your color guard team. I see a question in the chat. Are the movements peel and 3-step about face in the pamphlet? No, they're not actually in the pamphlet. Right about march is. The 3-step about face is a modification of your normal about face, and it's a ceremonious for doing it with the flag, since it is improper flag etiquette to actually do an about face. Those movements are not listed in the manual, but those are important to be able to figure out together as a team. You can watch videos of other color guard teams to be able to figure out how to do those movements down, but they are important, and there is a little bit of an individual aspect of color guard. Not everything is specified in the manual. There are things that you need to look up to, because it does specify some things and other things are a little bit different. But those 3 movements are things that you're going to have to learn that are, and 2 of those are not in the manual. All right, continuing on with our training plan, week 5 is where you take your individual groups and you bring them back together. So this is where you start as a team. You start where you march in and you have your guards there, and you post your flags, you put your guards at cadet or present arms, things like that. And you put all of those individual movements that you worked together over the last 4 weeks, you put all of those together. And from start to finish, you do an indoor colors posting. And with that, you work on refining errors. Were people staying on step? Was there miscommunication about timing? Things like that. And you just work on refining absolutely everything. And then as you progress within your weeks, there's different things that you can do. You continue refining all of your movements. Again, the goal of color guard is perfection. You want to try and have it as uniform, as perfect as you can possibly get. Even every little minute error, you want to try and get those eliminated. The other thing you want to do with your color guard team is you want to try and move the flag stands around, practice marching in from different directions, because you never know what'll happen. Like if you're doing a color guard presentation, let's say at our wing conference, because we always have a team at color guard be able to present that at our wing conference. So you don't know what the situation is when you actually march in with your color guard team. Are your flag stands that you're posting, are those 5 feet apart? Are they 20 feet apart? Is it, can you only march in from the front? Can you march in from the left, from the right? Is it on like where you have to go up a stairway to actually be able to get on the platform? Is there like a speaker podium in the way? All that sort of thing. So the key here is less about getting it down perfectly in the same spot. You never know what you're going to be able to have. So you need to have that adaptability, practicing as a team and moving around and getting those different location challenges and refining always your team is really important to make sure your color guard team is prepared for whatever event that it is that you're called out to do. So this is my sample 6-week training plan. Going back here, week 1, you want to talk about your drill foundations. Week 2, your advanced drill movements. Week 3, individual specialization. Week 4, working on post and retrieve. Week 5, put everything together. Week 6 and beyond, you work on your location challenges. Excuse me. All right. So a couple of tips to move beyond having a mediocre team, which follows the regulations and it looks good and it's kind of and you want to move beyond that phase to be able to do really well, to not just attend cadet competition, but to really shine, to have that dedication to excellence there and to make sure that everyone is as best as your team can possibly be. So the first thing that I would say, really, I can't stress this enough, make sure you read the manual, understand what it says. There's a lot of things that are outlined in it, and there's a few things that aren't. So things that are not in the manual, you need to figure out as a team how you're going to be able to do that. But at the very minimum, you need to read the manual and understand what it says. That's really helpful. It gives you some guidelines for how you should go about presenting the colors. There's no official way from start to finish, no official command sets to be able to do that. But make sure you know what the manual says and understand it So that way your team is at the very minimum following that and then moving beyond the manual to be able to get your post and retrieve done all the way. Next thing is you want to develop a team mindset. So as with any team, you're not just there as a group of individuals doing a color guard posting. You are doing it as a color guard team. Everything you do as a team. You do it with uniformity. If one person messes up, you had better have the mindset that every single person on your team will mess up together. It is not an individual thing. You are a team. You develop that team mindset. And the only way you're going to be able to have a fantastic standout team is if your team works together and you are operating as one individual team. Every step you take, every movement you make, every breath that you're taking on your color guard, you do so as a team, right? So that is the team mindset, really makes your team be able to stand out. Next thing is making your movement snappy. So you can do with your rifles, you can have it so that way you're following your manual and you do it right and it looks good. But if you want to really stand out, making your movement snappy is really important. So having that little bit of flair, again, not too much because the focus is again on the US flag and the presentation and not on the ceremonies drill that you're doing. But making your movement snappy can really move your team up from a decent quality team to really one performing with excellence. The next thing that really helps with your team is an outside observer to catch errors and provide feedback. So I'm not actually the color guard team commander for my squadron. I'm there as an outside observer to help our squadron to be able to, as they're presenting, to watch from the outside. As you're presenting within your color guard, it's really hard to be able to see what errors that you have and be able to catch those. You might not see that your last person is a little bit off step, or maybe you weren't all the way in the middle with the flag stands, right? So having that outside observer there to be able to figure out what it is that your team is doing wrong and be able to provide feedback can really help make your team refine all of those little errors. Next thing, you can watch videos of other color guards. Try and identify what they do really well and maybe some errors that they made during their presentation. Develop that eye for figuring out that attention to detail is really important. And so watching videos of other color guards, seeing what they did well, what they didn't, and getting some ideas from different people can really help bring those ideas back to your own color guard team. And that can really help you out as well. Finally, you want to ask for feedback from cadets, experienced cadets or senior members. Colonel Wiggs, he actually did color guard a lot back in his day, and he's a really great resource for color guard competition. And at my squadron, I have one of our senior members. She was a former spots cadet, and she did honor guard a whole bunch and is a really great resource to our squadron's color guard team as well. So you might have experienced cadets or senior members at your squadron. Talk to them, see about what their experiences are, see if they can maybe attend some of your practices, give your team feedback on how they can improve. If you don't have anyone else at your squadron, you can always talk to myself, or there's other teams out there, experienced cadets who have done a lot of color guard before, who can maybe take a video of your team, send it to them and say, hey, what feedback do you have for our team so we can be able to improve? And just getting those outside perspectives that you won't have within your own team, that can really help your team be able to be more successful and rise above that standard of mediocrity and really meet that standard of excellence and perfection. All right, so I know I covered a whole bunch of stuff in my class, but do we have any questions about color guard or setting up a team or anything else that it takes before I hand it back over to Captain Ferreria to talk about cadet competition? So if you have questions, you can either raise your hand on Zoom or send a question in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those. Is there a specific rank you have to be for color guard? No, not at all. You can do it as an airman or you can do it as a cadet colonel. There is no rank restrictions to be able to have for a color guard. As long as you know, as long as you have a good foundation of the basic drill movements, you can be very successful with color guard. So there's no minimum rank. How would you join a color guard team? So first thing, if your squadron already has a color guard team, talk to their color guard commander, figure out their interest, and say, hey, I'm interested in joining. What would it take for me to be able to do that? If you don't have a team already at your squadron, this is where I talked about it earlier. You try and get that cadet interest going, talk to your senior members about what it takes to actually be able to have a team. Squadrons can have multiple teams. If you want to have, if you have enough cadet interest, you can have 2 color guard teams, and you can like split your materials, whatever it takes right now. Again, a lot of color guards are not currently practicing. My squadrons is not allowed to practice in the moment either, for what we're allowed to do. But definitely when things are allowed, to talk to your color guard commander or get that team set up at your squadron. All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot of other questions here, so I will thank you very much. I will turn it over to Cadet Captain Ferreira. If you do have any other questions, I will be answering those through the chat. So thank you very much. And Cadet Captain Ferreira, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. So cadets, you can go ahead and take a short break as I set up.
So be back in about 3 to 5 minutes. Recording.
Okay. Morning, cadets. So I'm Cadet Captain Ferreira, as I said before. So now we'll be talking about cadet competition events and how this color guard stuff that we learned about before relates to cadet competition and how you can prepare for the specific events in cadet competition. All right. So CAPP 60-75 is the manual or the pamphlet that we will be using for cadet competition. This is actually not what the current manual right now. Officially, the current manual is 52-4, CAPP 52-4 down here. But going forward, what the competition is going to start using is this 60-75. Currently, it's in its draft form, but in the future, for all the future competitions, you will be held to the standard of 60-75. So I just wanted to make a note of that before we start. And then also, we talked about this before a little bit in Colonel Goran's presentation, but I want to talk about color guard because it is by nature extremely adaptive, and no matter how much that you prepare for a presentation or competitions, there's always going to be a small change. So because of all of those unexpected changes that happen, the way that you approach color guard, the specific routine that you use, the way you do each movement, and the way of approaching color guard in general is going to vary a lot from each team. So if you see something in the videos that you watch or people that you watch doing color guard that is a little bit different from you, it's okay, because your team is going to be different from every other team, and that's just the way color guard is. And they even make a note of that in 60-75. There is no single correct way for the team's members to position themselves and to do things. So don't worry about it if your routine isn't the exact same way as everybody else's, because color guard changes from time to time. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the core events. These are the events that you get graded on the hardest in cadet competition, and this is what you're going to be spending the majority of your, or basically all of your practice time on if you're doing cadet competition. Okay, so the first one is the indoor color guard presentation. You saw a video of this in the beginning. I won't explain too much about what indoor color guard presentation is because Colonel Gorham already explained about it, but you have 4 people on this team, on the indoor team, the lead rifle, the American flag, the state flag, and the left rifle. And for this, you're going to be doing 2 parts for cadet competition. You're going to be posting, so you're going to march up to the front, put the flags down, and then march all the way back. And once you get back, you're going to turn around straight away and then go to retreat. You're going to march up, take the flags, and then march back. That's all it is. But what this really is, the big part about indoor really comes down to the details. Everybody's going to have, at competition, everybody's going to have their routine down. what it really comes down to is the details and how perfect it looks. So this is what you're going to be practicing during your indoor practices. And then we already talked about this before too, but color guard is what you're going to be wanting to focus on for these cadet competition events. Honor guard is different, and they will mark you down if you do honor guard movements. This is something that our team had to learn firsthand, and we got marked down pretty hard at regionals for doing honor guard. So make sure that you're doing color guard. If you don't know the difference, make sure to check 60-33 because they will tell you exactly what color guard movements are. And then one more note, at competition, you're going to have to march around a day, I think it's how it's pronounced, but it's basically that speaker podium that is there. So that way it's basically an obstacle that your team has to move around. And that day is going to be there at every single competition. So make sure you have a plan for that because it will be there at every single competition. And it's in 60-75 that it has to be there. So some preparation practice techniques for your team to really get good at this is that you want to do full run-throughs only when you're absolutely confident with everything else, because think of it as practicing like an instrument. If you're practicing only the routine, then you're not going to be practicing the things that you need to practice because you're just going to be running through the routine and it's not going to be getting down to the details. You're just going to be going through the movements. What you really want to do is drill through each specific part. So break it down into the specific parts that you need to work on. So a good idea for this is to break into sectionals, which is what our team calls it. Your rifles are going to work together and your flags are going to work together separately. You don't want to spend a lot of time working on only rifles and then when you're done with only rifles, going to only flag because it's going to waste a lot of time. It may be good to do that sometimes so that way you can get some outside feedback, but the best thing to do to save time is to have rifle work together in their own little corner and then maybe flags work together in their own little corner because they each have specific movements that they need to be doing. For example, the rifles have to practice their getting in sync for port arms and order arms and present arms, and flags have to work together to figure out a routine to get up to the flagpole, stuff like that. And then get in sync. Getting in sync is so important. These details are really what's going to make you stand out in the competition. And if you don't focus on the details, it's going to show. So you should be able to be in sync with your eyes closed. By the time you get to competition, it needs to be muscle memory. You shouldn't have to look at your partner or your partner to be in sync. It should just be easy. All right, at competition, you're going to have a 5-minute preparation period. So during that period, make sure that your lead rifle knows where to stop because your lead rifle is going to make sure that your team stops in a place where you're all centered around the flag stands. So to make sure that your lead rifle knows where to stop, make sure they pick 1 or 2 focus points, maybe one in front of you on the ground and then one to the side. So that way, you know where to stop. So that way you're all centered. And then 2, get your rifles in sync. During that time, make sure you're getting in sync again. Even if you've done it a million times before and you know you're going to be in sync, just do it again because you don't know if the other rifle is going to be nervous and is going to and because of those nerves, the in syncness is going to be different. So just get in sync again. And then position your flag stands in the best place where you've practiced it. So that way there isn't any last minute changes. All right, so I want to show you an example of what's in sync enough and what's not in sync enough. This is not in sync enough. Look at our left hands. Okay, it's pretty close, but it's not enough. And at competition, if you do something like that, it will show. This is what in sync enough, and we saw this already. With that rifle slapping, that's actually honor guard. But this is what it looks like to be in sync, and that's what you want to strive for every single time. All right, so at competition, the judges are going to have a standardized scorecard, and this is what it's going to be. If you want to see this again, it's on 60-75. So first, they're going to be grading you on your report in. Make sure that you're reporting in on this event. Your team commander is going to be reporting in, and your team's going to be there with them to the chief judge. For posting sequence, your drill movements are going to be graded. That's when you march on. Manual of arms is referring to rifles, so making sure you're in sync, stuff like that. And obstacle avoidance is just talking about when you march on, how you maneuver through those aisles, how you maneuver past that speaker podium. Flag handling, this is for your flags, and honors, kind of your military bearing, stuff like that. Retrieval sequence, this is basically the same thing as your posting sequence, so I won't explain that too much. And this right here, this objective conformity with flag protocol, this is where you can lose points. Obviously, definitely you have to follow flag protocol for color guard, because color guard is all about honoring the flag. So if you don't honor the flag by not following flag protocol, that will lose points. You'll lose points from that. So make sure you're doing this. You can't gain points from honoring or from following flag protocol. It's just expected. All right, for outdoor, this is when you put the flag up on the flagpole and then you take it down. So there's two parts of outdoor. There's reveille, where you put the flag up, and retreat, where you take it back. So for reveille, there's going to be 3 people. You're just going to walk up all the way up to the flagpole, put the flag up specifically to half mast, because in 60-75, they want you to put it up at half mast. And even if judges don't tell you specifically that it's going to be at half mast, just assume it will be, because that's what's in 60-75. So once you put it up to half mast, your 3 people will just march off. Retreat, you're going to have a flag folder. That's why there's 4 people. So all 4 people are going to go all the way up to the flagpole. You're going to retrieve the flag, and then you're going to march off and go fold the flag. While you're folding the flag, the 2 other cadets who are not involved in folding the flag are going to stand by at attention. They're not moving off the field or wherever you're at, and they're not doing nothing. They're not done. They're standing by at attention, and they're going to come up with you when you present it to the chief judge at the end. So with music, it is a bit of a curveball every single time, because it's very variable. The senior members who run the competition aren't always good with technology, so music is not always expected. But if there is music, they'll let you know if there is music, and you will know. So if there is music, then what you want to do is don't move the flag until the music starts. When that music starts, then you can start moving the flag up the flagpole. Don't move until the music starts. And then by the time the music is over, ideally you'll be finished. So that's what happens with the music. For this, again, don't do the full run through until you're ready. Focus on one section at a time. For this, you're not going to be breaking into sectionals, really. What it's really going to be is breaking up the routine into different parts. So maybe you want to focus on the march on, maybe you want to focus on flag hoisting or folding the flag. So one specific part of the routine at a time, and then you can put it all together at the end. So when you're folding the flag, I'll talk about this in the next slide, but it's good to have like a small form of communication, so that way your flag folders are in sync when they make each movement. I'll show you an example of that in the next slide. And then make sure that the flag is open on the way up. It's kind of weird and sad to have a folded flag at the top of the flagpole. I swear that does happen, and it's happened to us twice. It really has. It's kind of sad. So to prevent that, make sure that you pop the flag, which basically just means take the 2 ends of the flag and then pop them out. So that way, when the flag goes up, you make sure it's flying. It can actually fly. At competition, you're not going to be able to get the chance to touch the flagpole, to physically touch the flagpole before you actually start. But one thing that you should do is get familiar with the flagpole. Look at where the post, the thing that you put the rope onto, where it is, because each flagpole is different, and you're going to want to make sure that you make any small changes necessary to your routine so that way you can adapt to that flagpole. And then try to pre-fold the flag the way that you want. Sometimes at competition, you're going to be going after a team who didn't fold their flag well. So if it's possible, then you should try to pre-fold the flag the way you want. If it's not possible, then hopefully the competition staff will do that for you. But the reason that you want to pre-fold the flag the way you want is so that way this kind of stuff right here, having a bag flag fold and then the flag is like still folded at the top of the flagpole, making sure that doesn't happen. So these are the two things: popping the flag and trying to pre-fold the flag is what you can do to prevent that. So here's a video of an outdoor presentation. I'll tell you again. This is more of an honor guard style. See, we're going pretty slow, but I'll offer some commentary on this. This was our 2019. That was a pretty bad turn, and we're out of step. Okay. That was a nice turn, but it wasn't color guard. It was honor guard. Okay, that was oh, I fell. That was a nice march up to the flagpole, besides like actually, like when we got to the flagpole, it was okay. Okay, music starts, and then you start moving the flag. Flag goes all the way up briskly, then all the way down slowly. Don't be afraid to move to grab the flag when it's coming down. That's totally okay. It's not breaking military bearings to get out of attention to grab the flag. Okay. I should have put the halyards all the way back up. And my gloves are funny. It was really, really cold that day, obviously, because there's snow everywhere. But that's why we're kind of weird with this. Okay, we got out of step for a second there, I think. All right, this is what I'm talking about with the small form of communication that I mentioned on the last slide. Okay, this flag bearer right here, Lieutenant Balky, she should have come all the way up with us, all the way up to the flagpole with us. So that's where we would have gotten marked down if we were being held to the 60-75 standards. Okay, now watch Huete's small movements of the head before he starts moving his hand. Watch his head movements. See that? Okay. You can't notice those unless you're looking for them, and those small movements to signal when to move are really important, and that's what that kind of stuff is what makes color guard, and what makes you look good and get in sync. I'm gonna skip through this flag folding part. Okay. This part is pretty funny to me because it's really cold and his hands are freezing and numb, so he can't grab onto the flag, and he's trying really, really hard, but he can't do it. That's a good military bearing by Lieutenant Balky for not laughing, because it's pretty funny. All right, once you folded the flag, feel free to fix it up a little bit while holding it, just to make sure it looks all pretty. And you can see them doing that. Looks like the flag is a little bit bent or something. Okay. Since we didn't have a chief judge, we didn't present it to the chief judge, but normally that would be something that we do. So here's the scorecard. Let's grade what we just saw. Report in. We didn't see a report in, but so let's skip that. Drill during march on. I don't think that was very good. We were out of step. Our turns were pretty bad. So that would be a not great score for that. Rope handling, I thought it was okay. Probably should have put the halyards up all the way up at the end. I'm not sure if we get graded down for that, but that's what we should have put the halyards all the way back up at the end. Flag handling, yeah, I thought that was fine. Raising and lowering, yes, we put it, I think we had a smooth flow. We went up briskly and down solemnly. Down, up fast, down slow. That's how you should be doing this. And folding, you didn't see that, but I think it was good. Our hands were cold, but I think it was okay anyways. Strategy, maintains military bearing. I think we maintained that pretty well, considering the circumstances. For this, I think it was okay for efficient and well-planned routine strategy. Drill during march off, again, was pretty bad. Not as bad as the march on though. Appearance of the folded flag, it was okay. The flag should have been straight. If you saw at the end, it was kind of like bent a little bit somehow. But so maybe we get like a 3 out of 5 on that. I don't know. Objective conformity with the flag protocol. Again, all of this stuff is major errors, and if you don't follow this, you will lose points. Flag first hoisted to full staff and then lowered all the way down. Yes, we did that. You didn't see that because that was in a different video. And we did this. 3 cadets used for raising. We did that. You didn't see it because it wasn't in the video. 4 cadets for lowering. We did not do this. The 4th cadet should have come all the way up with us. All the way up to the flagpole with us. She shouldn't have just stayed behind. Flag decorum. Yes, it was kept off the ground. And the union was up. Halyard secured. Again, we should have put those halyards all the way back up. So I don't know, maybe that would have been a minor error. Folded US flag presented to chief judge. We didn't have a chief judge. Okay, next. So this is what our score was for this competition. For outdoor, we got a 47. Somehow we got 3rd place out of 4. That's nice that we didn't get 4th. That's good. I wouldn't have been surprised if we did get 4th, but good thing we got 3rd. For indoor, that was the presentation that you saw at the beginning. We got 1st place for that, so that was awesome. And then we got 1st place overall. Yay. Okay, standard drill is something new. This is a new event starting last year at nationals. So I've actually done this before, and our Renton team has done this before. So I'll just talk about it a little bit. These steps are right here. This is something that your team is going to have to memorize because your American flag is going to have to call this out. So for standard drill, this is basically parade drill. You're going to have it's the same equipmentation as for indoor. So you're probably going to be using the same people for indoor because you've already been practicing on that equipment. But it's basically parade drill. So you're going to have 2 rifles and 2 flags. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing this whole sequence, 24 movements. And yeah, you just do that. So your reporting is a lot more detailed for this event. You have to march up to the chief judge, and then as compared to the other events, you don't have to actually march up to them. For this, your report in actually has like a very specific process that you're gonna have to learn. So you're going to start off with order arms because you're going to be part of the reporting process is to do present arms. So you're going to do order arms, and specifically order arms for this is for your rifles. And then this part, order colors here, is when your flags will move. I'm not sure why they have it different for arms and colors, but that's something to take note of. So that's standard drill. And then standard drill is also broken into two parts. There's this standard drill, which is the parade movements. And then there's element standard drill. But for standard drill, this is something that comes in 60-75. This is a diagram. This is basically just telling you what the layout is going to look like and what steps you're going to be taking. These steps are here. They don't refer to your actual paces, like left, right with your feet. They refer to these steps over here, like 18, 19, 20. That's what they're referring to. So don't let that confuse you. For element standard drill, for element standard drill, this is the drill that you've done in encampment before. This is the drill that you do at your weekly meetings. This is the drill that you know already. So this is, you're going to have all your team in one element, and your team commander is going to be acting as the flight sergeant and calling commands. So this whole part right here is actually only the reporting process. This reporting process is really, really detailed, and it's a lot of responsibility for the team commander to get this done, because you have to march 12 paces from and centered on the chief judge. So you have to figure out how you want to time that and time your commands to do that. And then there's a lot of stuff here that you have to learn. But I won't go too much into detail about this. You can screenshot the PowerPoint if you want, but that's the reporting process, and it's pretty detailed it's the hardest reporting process for all of these events, in my opinion. So for this, you're going to be getting a set of randomized commands on a card that the chief judge will give you. Will give to the team commander. And your team commander is going to call those commands on the card, and your team is going to do them. You're not going to know what commands they are before you start. They're going to be completely randomized. So just make sure that you know all of the commands that they might be showing you. You'll have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to do all those commands. And when you're done, you're going to go back to the chief judge, report out, and then march off. So for this, make sure that you're practicing reporting and dismissal procedures, because these are very detailed. So make sure that you know them. And then learn and practice obscure drill movements, because they will throw the most random movements possible to you. So make sure that you know everything that they might throw at you. For example, at nationals, we had to do a movement called count off. You've probably done count off in like vans before, but our team's never done count off in like a drill setting before. So that was something that we had to learn really, really quickly before we started. And the only reason that we knew to prepare for count off is because we were listening around to other teams at competition who were talking about like being so surprised about count off and stuff. So at competition, try to listen around to what other teams are saying, because those commands are surprising them too. And after they're done, they're going to be talking about, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, what about count off? That was so crazy. I didn't even know what that was. So if you just listen around at competition to see what other teams are talking about, you might be able to get like a head start. I wouldn't consider that cheating. It's just like being resourceful, because it's just being resourceful. First, for this, there isn't a lot you can do at competition to prepare for this, but just make sure you're staying focused. You're not getting too nervous. If you're truly ready for this event, then those commands are going to come to you just muscle memory. You're just going to be able to do them. And then another thing, during practice, during practice and at competition, just make sure that you're using any necessary transitional movements to get to proper formation for the next move. For example, if you have a column right that you have to do, you're going to want to get your team into column right or column formation.
Captain Ferrer, you had a question in the chat. Is your element drill done without rifles and flags?
Yes, this is no equipment. Sorry, I can't see the chat. I'll have it open. Okay, so these are the standard drill scorecards. This is, these aren't too hard to learn about. I will make a note, for element standard drill, this is a lot of responsibility on your team commander. So they actually have like a whole point section for your team commander specifically. So yes, in standard drill, this is military bearing, marching, how well you look with all that stuff. What's this all is, and then military bearing, voice commands, flag procedures, for the parade drill, standard drill, and then more military bearing stuff. For these down here, these are the errors. So you can't get points from doing these. You can only lose points from violating these things. So if you go out of sequence or you forget a movement, you're going to get marked down. If you go out of boundaries, so there's like set boundaries for the drill pad, you go out of bounds, you get marked down. If you don't meet the time limit or you go too long, then you'll get marked down. So make sure that you're all prepared for that. Hold on, I'm trying to change slides. Okay, so the TLP. This is a TLP. I'm sure you've all done TLPs before, but this is now part of your competition. So it's a TLP. So during this TLP, make sure that everybody's pitching in. This planning phase over here, if you look at this whole rubric, the planning phase is actually the biggest part of this, and not even you're actually doing it. So the planning phase is going to be very important in this. Make sure that you know everything about the TLP before you start. Make sure you're asking any questions that you need, anything. Are any of the standard drill commands from memory or written down? Okay, so for standard drill, for the parade drill, you're going to have to memorize those commands, and your American flag will call those commands. And for the element standard drill with the normal encampment kind of drill, you get a card. Your team commander is going to get a card with drill movements written down on them that they'll just do. Okay. And be creative with your solutions for these TLPs. If you have a creative solution for these TLPs, it's really, really impressive to the judges, especially if you pull them off well. But if you have a creative solution, like a out-of-the-box solution, and you do bad on it, it's not as impressive. And so if you have an out-of-the-box solution, make sure it works. But if you do have an out-of-the-box solution and it does really well, that's very, very impressive. So try to be out of the box with your solutions. Don't just go for the normal. And go for speed. You can see that speed right here. That's actually something that you're graded on. So go for speed, but don't be too hasty. Don't make any dumb mistakes by going too fast. And part of speed is going to come with your solution. If you have a good solution, then you're just naturally going to take less time. And then fully understand the TLP before you start. Ask questions. Make sure you're involving everybody on your team, because if you look right here, full participation versus domineering individuals. So make sure that everybody is included in doing these TLPs. Your team commander isn't going to be taking a leadership position here, because you want every single person every single person to be talking, to volunteer ideas. So make sure everybody's participating. Okay, you will also have a written test. This is another core event. It's graded both individually for if you have individual awards, and then it's also graded as a team, so all of your scores are going to be added up together, and that's going to be your team score. So for this, it's 70 questions, 70 minutes, and it's closed book. So all of these questions, all of the questions that they're going to put on that test is going to be right here. These are the questions. Study for this test as if you're studying for the Billy Mitchell exam, because those are all the questions that they'll put on there. They'll have all of the leadership tests up to your Billy Mitchell test, all of the aerospace dimensions modules, and then they'll have 5 drill questions, 5 aerospace current events questions, or 3 aerospace current events questions, so make sure you're staying up to date with those. And then for a total of 70 questions. And then for this, study on your own time. You don't want to spend your precious time, your precious weekly meeting time on just studying for the written test. This is something that you can do on your own. For your practices, for your rehearsals, make sure you're doing stuff that you can actually practice with the whole team. Okay, uniform prep and uniform inspection. This is a really fun event, actually. The uniform events might seem like kind of dry and boring at first, but I really, really love the uniform prep. So for this, it's 2 random cadets from a team will be taken out, and they'll be given the achievements and the statistics of a fictional cadet. We'll talk about that more in the next slide. So those statistics of that fictional cadet, those 2 cadets are going to have to assemble that cadet's blues blouse, and they have 30 minutes to do that. They'll have access to CAPR 39-1. So they'll have to make the ribbon rack, they'll have to iron the uniform, and they'll have to pin any accoutrements on. I hope I said that right. Yes, so that's what uniform prep is. My advice for that is learn the uniform regs for male and female, because make that distinction between male and female, because if they give you a female blouse, just assume that they're female and make sure that you know what the regs are for females, because you don't want to spend your precious 30 minutes just flipping through the regs. So make sure that you know that ahead of time. And then memorize the ribbons, their requirements, and their order. Make sure that you know how you get each ribbon, what each ribbon looks like, and where each ribbon goes on the ribbon rack, because you're going to have to be planning the ribbon rack, and the ribbon rack is a very, very big part of that event. And then finally, make sure you don't mix up senior member and cadet accoutrements, because they'll give you a lot of different pins that you can put onto the uniform. For example, if they give you a gray name tag and a blue nameplate, make sure that you're putting the blue nameplate on, because you're doing a cadet. So don't put the gray stuff on. How many hours a week does your competition practice? Our team does an hour to an hour and a half every week, and sometimes we stay a little bit extra, but it's usually an hour to an hour and a half every week. For my team, at least. We practice on Tuesdays. And for uniform inspection, this is a spot inspection, so 2 random cadets from team can be pulled out at any random point in the day. So those 2 cadets have to report in, they'll get inspected, and then they'll report out. My advice for this, fix your uniform throughout the day. It's a spot inspection, so make sure your uniform is pretty all day. Make sure that somebody on your team is carrying scissors, a Tide pen, a lint roller, anything that you need to fix up your uniform, because you can get pulled out whenever. So carry that around with you. That actually is really helpful, especially if because at Nationals, we were on a really big college campus. So if you have those uniform stuff on you and ready to go, you can get ready for that uniform inspection really quick. Prepare your uniform before you come. At competition, you're not going to have a lot of time to prepare that up. So make sure it's all nice and neat before you come to competition. Wear shirt garters. You're going to be graded on your tuck. So shirt garters make your uniform very nice. If you don't know what shirt garters are, they basically attach to the bottom of your blouse, and then they just pull your blouse down, so that we have a nice tuck all day. Those 2 cadets who are chosen, make sure they check each other's uniforms before you go in and report. so that way you make sure you're all pretty and stuff, and make sure that everybody knows how to report in, because that is something that you will be graded on. Okay, for the uniform scorecards, this is all the stuff. I have it separated down here. So this side is the scorecard for uniform prep, and this is the scorecard for uniform inspection. I don't think I have to explain this very much, but this is what it is. And make a note, you do have to report in and report out for this. And it's not going to be your team commanders who's ever chosen to do these uniform events. Okay, let's go through Cadet Brown. This is an example that National came out with, so you can practice uniform prep. So Cadet Brown has been in CAP for 3 years. Does he get anything on his uniform for being in CAP for 3 years? Think about it in your head. Yes, he gets a red service ribbon for being in CAP for 3 years. At his home squadron, or at their home squadron, we don't know if they're a girl or a boy, or okay, we don't know. So a flight commander, do they get anything on their uniform for being a flight commander at their home squadron? Think about it. No, they don't. Achievement 13. What achievement is that? What grade are they? Can you in your head, do you know which achievement goes with which grade? So that's something that you're going to have to learn. And then along with that, which grade goes with which ribbons, and what order does all the ribbons go into? Because you can't short stack for this event. They're a cadet captain. Achievement 13 goes with captain. And so they'll have leadership ribbons all the way through their Earhart Award. They've been to encampment 3 times. They definitely get something for that. They get an encampment ribbon, and they get 2 clasps for going to encampment 3 times. And they were a distinguished graduate at their wing NCO school. They don't get anything for that. No CA service, so nothing for that. They are an NRA marksman, so they get their marksmanship badge. Completed a model rocketry program. They get a model rocketry badge. And then their squadron earned a unit citation award. Think in your head, because this is interesting. Do they get anything for earning a unit citation award? Yes, they get a unit citation ribbon. Do you have to put clasps on? Yes, you have to put clasps on, and they'll give you the clasps to do that. Sometimes they won't have the clasp, so they'll just let you know to make a note of that onto a piece of paper. But if it depends on the materials. If they do have clasps available, then you'll put them on. Or if they don't want to ruin the ribbons, then you can just write it down too. So if you want more of these examples, go on to gocivilairpatrol.com and go into the NCC section, the National Cadet Competition section, and they'll have more of these examples on there. Okay, the fitness test, this is pretty self-explanatory. For this, I'll say the curl-ups are going to be measured by your old standards. They're not going to be that weird, like, whatever this curl-up thing is. It's going to be you get 1 minute to do as many as you can. That's basically what it is. And you'll do a sit and reach. This is going to be with the box, and you're going to do a mile run. It's probably going to be the mile run, but in some cases they might do a pacer. In my experience, I've never done a pacer before for cadet competition. They'll usually find a place where you can do a mile. So that is the test. Every competition runs that event differently, and it can vary, but hopefully it's more standardized because we have new regs. Okay, I'll run through these non-core events quickly. These can be graded, they can not be graded. It depends on what wing competition wants to do, but you don't have to spend a lot of time preparing for these at your meetings. So this panel quiz, don't get scared by this. this whole diagram here. It's pretty self-explanatory, actually. Well, it's not self-explanatory, but it's intuitive when it's actually explained to you. This is basically just a Jeopardy style game, and you're going to know all this information. All of this information is just going to be general cadet knowledge and going to go up to anything from, you're going to know all this knowledge from studying for the written test anyways, so it's okay. You don't have to study too hard for this. And I actually note that here, don't spend practice time on this. You want to spend your practice time on Colorguard, and choose your panel quiz team based on the strengths of each team member. Maybe somebody's really good at aerospace, somebody knows their leadership really well. So that's how you want to choose your panel quiz team. And study as if you're studying for your Billy Mitchell. Read up on your uniform regs and your drill manual. Okay, and there's also impromptu speech. So for this, it's an impromptu speech. This is a scorecard on the right. For this, just all you have to do to prepare for this is just practice a lot and keep this scorecard in mind and have people listen to your impromptu speeches. But for these non-core events, it's okay if you don't spend time at your practices on this, because you really want to spend time on your core events. So that concludes my presentation. Do we have any questions about anything about cadet competition or organizing a color guard team? By the way, if you ever have any questions about color guard, or if you want to send me a video to give you feedback, you can always email me, and I'll be happy to give you feedback.
Same with me as well, although I don't have any experience going to cadet competition. That's something that I'm trying to get my team up to hopefully this year, but I'd definitely be able to provide you feedback with your color guard presentation as well.
So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat, or you can say it out loud with your mic.
All right. Well, it looks like questions have petered out. Excellent presentation by both. Good participation from the class. I want to thank everyone for attending, and I hope you learned quite a bit. And I'm really hoping that we have a spark and see lots of teams being fielded in the upcoming cycle. Last call for any questions from the group.
I have one question for both of them. What's the chances that we could put together a virtual competition or a very small portion of that competition? Do you see that being something we could try?
We've done a virtual competition before. Those videos from 2019 are from our old virtual competition that we did in 2019, because Camp Boucher was actually closed or something like that. So we had to switch to a virtual competition. So it is possible, but I don't know what the COVID restrictions are for meeting, right, for each team to meet.
Right. I guess it would have to, the teams would be able to have to get together like in the 10-person or less group, but we couldn't then get the whole wing together to do a competition. We would have to do it.
Yeah.
We would have to have at least be able to get, say, the 8 or 10 people together. Right.
And I think Washington is looking at that. There's some active planning towards competition, but I'm not up to speed on where they're at on that. All right. At this point,
Did I see a question from Cadet First Lieutenant Thompson?
Go ahead.
I would like to say what the Idaho wing is doing, in case the Washington wing is interested in taking this and doing this as well for cadet competition. So for Idaho wing, we are having the teams, essentially the judges will be going to visit each squadron that has a cadet competition team. And then the team will kind of present for the small group of judges.
Okay. Very nice. Is Idaho, just out of curiosity and not to drag this class out, but are you currently allowed to have small group meetings?
Yes, sir. I believe the limit is 10 people or less, sir.
Okay. Unfortunately for Washington, we're fundamentally, due to state regulations, at cap phase 0. So here's hoping. Once we get there, I think your suggestion would be well embraced here.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Any other questions coming up? All right, I am going to stop the recording at this point.